pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. We have all 5 board members present in person this evening. Do we have any agenda items to table or remove?
We do. We have L3D and L2, which are both in personnel, and then N1, which is under finance, which is a supplement. They are all indicated on the agenda with strike-throughs.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as stipulated on the record? Mrs. King makes the motion. Mr. Reed will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have the minutes from December 8th, 2025. Do we have a motion for approval? Mr. Hall makes the motion. Mr. Nelson will second. Do we have any discussion? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And next we have the special meeting from January 7th, the minutes from that meeting. Do we have a motion for approval? Mr. Reed will make the motion. Mrs. King will second. All those in, do we have any discussion? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have no delegations present, so next we will conduct the public hearing on the development of the 26-27 school calendar in accordance with 18-5-45 of the West Virginia School Law.
Are you ready, Mr. Pledge? So in front of you, we're going to, there's a presentation that we'd like to go through just to give you an idea of some things about the school calendar. And then we have a sample calendar that the county has worked through with committees and looked at as how we would like to move forward. We've had no response back to it other than, oh, it's a good calendar, but I still want you to know a few of the pieces that go together to put this, because you guys are the ones that get the questions. It is a puzzle to put it together. It's more than just, you know, when I was in school, it's when is my summer vacation? It has a lot more pieces to it than that. It is specifically defined in state code how we have to do the calendar. One of the things that gets really confusing, and you guys need to have a clarification of this, you can see it's up there in 2 sections. There is a 180-day calendar and there is a 200-day calendar. They probably within my career in this building have started developing them as one calendar, and it brought some confusion. But I want to clarify, the 180 days are the minimum number of instructional days for students. So students come to school 180 days. That's our goal. It's not just our goal, it's the law. They have to have 180 days. There are a few workarounds with this, but you have to have 180 days. Employees have an employee calendar. Some are 200 days, some are 210, some are 215, but they have a separate calendar. The minimum calendar an employee works is 200 days. So those are 2 separate specific things. Students are based on instructional minutes. Employees are based on days worked. So we're going to look now, when you look at a 200-day, when we're looking at a 200-day, we're looking at an employee, right? So right now we're going to spend a couple minutes on looking at what the 200-day employment term means. 180 of those days they're teaching, right? Because we just heard that. There are 20 days that are called non-instructional days. They're the part of the calendar for employees that have specific things in code that you have to use these days for. It's just not days off. They're strategically planned. There are some that say you can't have this before this day. You can't. There's some flexibility for scheduling, but they are an essential building block for the rest of the calendar. When you look at these, we have OS days, which they're called outside school environment days. We have prep days, we have holidays and election days, and we have other planning days. OS days, we have 6 paid non-instructional days. State law requires 4 of these days to be scheduled after the 130th day of instruction. This schedule mandates that they are used in a 200-day contract for makeup days. So in their calendar, and if you look at the calendar in front of you, we use those OS days. So if you'll get the calendar that you have in front of you that looks like this, you will see we use those OS days at spring break, right? You see them? There's 4 of them. And we use 2 at the end of the year. Those days can be lost because of snow days. Based on the 200-day calendar, they have 6 days built on that we could have to make up. So we could say, okay, you have to come to school 3/25. You no longer have that OS day. Does that make sense? All right. Then there's some fixed pieces of the puzzle. We have to have a prep day at the beginning of the year. We have to have a prep day at the end of the year. It's set. So when teachers come back to school, there's one day they have to work in their rooms and get things ready, and at the end of the year, they have to have a day to clean it up. There are holidays and elections that are built in. And this year there isn't, this coming year, there is an election day in the fall. There are 8 of them mandated, and they list to us what they are and when we are to hold them. They must be in every calendar. The calendar you're looking at for this year, they're yellow. So you can see the yellow dates and the gray for the election day. And the prep days were light blue. So when you look at this, that's how the 20 days total up. There's 6 out of school or outside the school day environment days, 2 prep days, 7 holidays, 1 election days, and then there's 4 other days, which are curriculum planning days that you'll see there's 3 of those at the beginning of the year and then 1 later in the year. Total together, these add the other 20 days. So the students have 180 days, the employees have 200 days, and this is specific by code what their days should be. So then we have snow, right, where we live. We have some chaos things. The other day we had no electric. Yeah, there are issues. But if you read that, they can threaten the 180 days we guarantee. So when I say 180 days, am I dealing with an employee calendar or a kid calendar? Student calendars are the 180 days. So we have to guarantee some way that we meet the law by giving them their 180 days. And the way that we do this in our calendar is 1 is equivalent time. A few years back, and I'm gonna say it was probably 5 years, but I could be wrong with that because time gets past me. We had to go in and we had to add 30 days because student days are based on minutes.
30 minutes.
Yes, and so we had to add 30 minutes to their instructional day. Elementaries are required less minutes than middle school and high school. And so I keep a chart that is an equivalent time chart that lets us know how many minutes we have extra in each of the schools. And so people will say, do we get 5 snow days or do we get, well, it depends. Because if you spend your equivalent time on early dismisses or coming in late, or if you take them out of school for something that we don't do, let's say you take them out for something that was non-instructional, the principals keep a list. Because we put that time in, but we spend it. Does that make sense? So we have up to 5 days. Generally we have 5 days, but if we had enough 2-hour delays or early dismissals, you might only have 4 of those. Does that make sense? And I keep an equivalent time chart for students that determine whether or not and how many minutes we have. So when we talk really seriously about, in our next presentation, about protecting instructional time, this is what we talk about. We do it for lots of reasons. One, we guarantee them by law 180 days, but the other side of that is being in class and getting the instruction also improves student performance. All of it goes hand in hand. So the next one is, you guys hear this one all the time, NTI days. That's the other way we kind of respond to chaos. If it's snow and no electric, we can have an NTI day. We chose to have 5 of those, and we can have 5 every year. And the big thing about this is, it's not like we just wing it. We have to write a plan, it has to be approved by the state, and we have a process in place on how we manage those days. And so I want to let you know that that's part of the calendar. And then the draft is done, and in front of you, you guys have an Appendix B. Do you see that? These are 12, so this chart, the calendar is electronic, but I have to be able to answer yes to all these questions. The first day of employment is entered. And once I enter all of these and meet all these expectations, then I get a report from when I put this calendar in Excel, and it'll tell me if I have any mistakes. It won't let us put through a calendar that doesn't meet the state law, which has been a great improvement, because when I first started this, that wasn't there. So I really like that feature. And so I go through and make sure, you know, when graduation is. I mean, there's all of these rules. Graduation can't be seniors have to have 175 days, can't be 5 days or 6 days prior to their last day of school. You've got to have your semesters pretty even. You can go 86, 94, but you got to have them broken pretty even. We have all kinds of other rules that are a part of developing the calendar as well.
Did you just try and trick us?
No,
How many days of graduation do you
I was thinking it was 5.
It is, you just said 6.
I said if it's on the 6th day, they can't have it.
I thought you were trying to trick us.
Yeah, but you were listening, that's good.
Apparently not very well.
And once you have this whole puzzle put together, then you bring it, then you have to, Jacob, you have to have public hearings. This is our first public hearing. And then you take it in front of the board at our next meeting. We'll bring it in front of the board for a vote. And then I have to send it to the state of West Virginia for approval. And it has to be in before May 1st. We'll get ours in. And one of the reasons you try to get it in before then is because there's a lot of things. You've got to get staff development plan for the beginning days. I've sent this calendar to Multi, to all of the counties that are in the Multi Center with us, so that we have some communication, because that's another piece of our puzzle that we deal with. And so we will have it to the state for approval before that. That's our plan. But behind all these rules, it is just a promise that we promise 180 days of instruction, and you saw the ways that we go about making sure that we do get the days that we require, and the 180 days is for students. And then we meet all of the other rules. So I want you to look at the calendar in front of you. From what I just went over with you, you would see that for this one that we are looking at this evening, it looks up to the top right. It says, are you using equivalent time as an option? Yes, Ritchie County Schools is using equivalent time. And so then that gives us, we start, it looks like school, our county has traditionally started school on a Thursday, so it would be 8/13. The Friday on 8/7 would be the teachers and the staff's day that they do their in lieu for the stuff that they do after July 1 at home, their trainings. This calendar looks very much like the one we're in now. The only difference is, and it worked out, actually this one worked out better, is that the Friday before Christmas break would be kids wouldn't have school. It would be like this year when they didn't have school because of electric, but they wouldn't have school because it's a PL day and a faculty senate. We're off 2 straight weeks, and then they would return on the following Monday. Remember this year we had an extra Friday in there, and we had to bring teachers back. That's not there this next year because of the way the calendar fell. Then Easter would be the same. This county has always asked us to make sure Friday and Monday are protected days, so that if we would happen to lose the 4 days because spring break, because of weather, they would still have the Friday and the Monday. And then looking at this as well, school would end on May 26th, and Ritchie County High School's graduation would be May 23rd. So this is the calendar that the staff has looked at. We've had no comments other than, yeah, that looks like our typical calendar. And we have no one here at the hearing, but I did want to spend a few minutes going over some of the rules of the calendar, so that, because you guys are the ones that get the questions about it, and especially the fact that there are 2 calendars, and it might help you answer some questions if you so get those. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them. Yes, Mr. Nelson?
Do all counties have NTI days?
They do not.
And those that do, is there an advantage to doing the snow days first before the NTI days? Because I think that happens with some counties.
So we choose not to do that.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
One, because it protects instructional time, and that's one of our goals.
Right.
But secondly, we have our semester ends before Christmas. So if we take non-traditional days before that, we have less days in the fall than we do in the spring in our schedule.
Right.
So if you take 3 snow days before Christmas, then your semester doesn't end till after Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
But if you take an NTI day, it counts as instruction, it doesn't move that. So it benefits our county
Okay.
a couple of ways.
Right.
But we like getting our instructional days in.
Right, I was wondering that. And then another question, if our.
Did I answer that okay?
You did, I
Okay.
didn't know
Okay.
what the difference was.
Some also don't have their supplemental materials sent home or devices sent home, and that's why they have to do a snow day before they do a non-traditional day.
But our district leadership team has made that a real strong
Yeah.
point,
Yeah, I can see that.
that we would like to have, we want to get our instruction in.
Right.
And because it's smaller in the fall, we don't, or less days in the fall, we don't want to lose any days in the fall.
Okay, all right. My other question is about, like, Moth Time, when we don't match with Pleasance or Tyler, they don't have school, but we do.
Uh-huh.
Do our students still go? Do they still operate in Moth Time?
I'm gonna tell you, that's not as easy as an answer as that, but next week, I'll bring it to you. Mr. Hott sent us out, or it is next week, we have another meeting. I will bring you, the summary that Mr. Hott sent out that lets us know when we do send our kids and we don't, because the answer's not simple yes or no. So I'll bring you the chart that answers that question. That's a good question too. But I did provide him our calendar, and he does works very hard to try to match it. And the one school we need to match the most is Pleasance, because they're the holder of Mop Tie. And so we've kind of been working on it, because it's beneficial.
Do teachers have to, present their NPI information to someone?
It is the principal's responsibility. I know that they are working hard on, it is part of an instructional day and it's the principal's responsibility. And I, with communication that we've had, feel like they've done a nice job making sure that they have this year. Is that fair? I'm not gonna say 100%, but
You have to submit plans to the principals.
yes, they have to submit plans. And now they can go online and see on rooms if they've sent stuff out.
So appendix B, are they all yes?
What was it, appendix B? They are all yes.
I was just seeing if any of them were trying to trick us, that's why when you
No.
said six, I'm like, this is
You were
five.
checking me out, weren't you? They're all yes, we have it all set up, and the calendar that we are putting in front of you, meets all of those requirements. We do try to, like on February, I think it's February 15th, that's like President's Day. We try to hit that holiday with it, maybe some parents that work in federal stuff aren't in school and want their kids off. And so we try to hit even some of those days too in our calendar. It's a pretty typical calendar for us, but I just thought I would share it with you. And then we'll bring it next week again. We've adjusted our ad that's in the paper to let them know that the meeting is next week. And so we will be able to go ahead and finish it at next week's meeting.
And from my experience, I think I've been here the longest now. Well, the only comments we've ever had at a calendar meeting that I recall were about 4-H camp and the fair.
Yes.
And making sure that students were able to participate in both of those, and our school year didn't hit either one. And it doesn't, the fair has moved, which made it easier, yes.
So that's all I have for a public hearing, to meet that one.
Okay, I believe Mr. Hall has.
Oh, that's all.
So, talking to some folks on NTI days, usually the ones that have the biggest gripe are the ones that have 3 kids in elementary school who are given so I'm gonna exaggerate, they say 3,000 worksheets, I know it's not their kids assigned
That's a lot.
pages and pages of worksheets,
Uh-huh.
and the parent has to basically, and they'll say, I have to be the teacher, because they, of course, have to know.
Right.
And it does wear them out. And so, 2 things. One, it'd be good to explain in very simple terms why we choose to use NTI on a regular basis to the public, so they understand why. Because they will say, so-and-so county didn't on this day do an NTI day, and that might make them.
So what you just said is, during that day, that child got some instruction.
Yes.
And we are required to do 180 days of instruction.
Yeah, well,
So-
the the parent will say, so-and-so county just did snow day, I have to deal with this, I don't have time for this. We all know that, so.
At some point,
Explaining to them the reason why we did is good to reinforce, I think, and also with the elementary age, making sure that those teachers understand that boatloads of worksheets are aware of. And I hope they understand, I would assume they
Yes.
understand that, but it seems that maybe some don't.
and what I would think I would do is ask that
Is
parent to.
Am I the only one that ever hears that?
But I would ask that parent to call the school and have that conversation with the principal and the teacher, because then they can address it in a theoretical, we can't address it here. But we're more than willing to make sure that we are doing something
I
like
mean,
that.
I experienced it with my daughter
Yeah.
and my wife. My wife lives in Vermont.
Yeah, that's why we
That's
didn't
a
like
couple
COVID.
years ago.
Yeah, it's a whole lot better than COVID. Yeah.
So-
I don't know what all they've been sending, but like in the lower levels, being an elementary teacher, you would kind of expect some reading material,
It is.
like read this little short story on this worksheet. I mean, I don't know what they're even.
And maybe
sending.
one of the things that I could have Sonya do is bring you guys some samples of
Yeah.
what's sent home,
Yeah, that would be.
so you could kind of look at it,
Right.
and she could review that with you.
Right.
What do you think? We can do that.
So Wood County has implemented NTI days this year. I happened to be at their board meeting when they did that this year, and the main reason that they chose to do it is because last year they had to go to school much longer than we or other counties did, and so that's one of the benefits of using them is so that you can still hopefully be out by Memorial Day and not still be going to school in June, which parents really don't seem to like.
Well, and on top of that, your level of instruction, it's harder and harder when you get to the end of the year to have it be quality instruction. And so we want to get that.
And this year, didn't they use their snow days first so far?
I don't know.
They used a snow day in the beginning because they did not have their packets
Ready?
delivered, and they also, not all counties have one-on-one devices like we do,
Yeah.
so they have to do it a different way. But they approved them, and then when the first one hit, they were not ready to use them yet.
And we've been doing them long enough to be ready. So.
We're hesitant.
I'm not gonna apologize for putting instruction first, I just can't.
Great, so I believe that concludes the public hearing on the school calendar. Next, we will move on to the superintendent's report and academic updates.
I just have a few things today. The first one is, I do need to report on this current year's calendar. You know that December 2nd was an NTI day, December 15th was an NTI day, December 19th was a power outage, which will be one of our snow days. And then, which is what you got from the equivalent time for students. And so we are down 3 days. So NTI days, we would have 3 left, and up to 4 more of the other, then it might be 3. It just depends on what happens the rest of the year. I just wanted to let you know that's where we are on this year's calendar. And then information, we provided you some information that the Girl Scouts want to hand out to the elementary schools, but we are by policy to educate, or to let you know that we are doing that. They won't be handed out, but they will be placed in the schools if the girls would like to pick those up. Other things I have is that we have purchased a van. Did you see it tonight on your way in? Oh, it's not out.
It's dark out there.
It was out today when I came through for lunch, and I was hoping you'd see it. We are getting, he's put a couple new tires on for us, and we should, it is here in town, so I've seen it driving. Did you see it driving around? Okay, so we do have the van, we're excited about that. And we have Mrs. Hall working on the training on Vector, what we want to do with staff, getting in touch with other counties that have one, making sure that we are in line with BRIM to let people drive it and that kind of thing. So that's where we are now, but we're excited. Are you excited about it? I'm excited.
So what is the primary expectation for its use?
Well, it's going to be used for, it won't be used in place of buses. Like if we already, you will first try to get a bus. But we have some sports, like golf, that doesn't ever take a bus. So they will probably use the
So it
van.
can be used for smaller teams?
Smaller teams. FFA sometimes will go on trips that would benefit them for taking, because they're a small group. Pardon me? Band sometimes will take one or two kids to somewhere or a quiz bowl team, maybe, that has like 5 kids on it. We will use buses as much as we can, because those are the people that's the people we feel most comfortable with. I think that's the expectation. But there are times, I even thought, we have a group of adults that are going to a regional meeting in Tyler. If we had the van, instead of them all driving separately, they could have taken the van.
So I assume that to get reimbursed for any travel as a county employee, you have to do the required driver's online training?
That's what Vector would be, yes.
That's Vector?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I guess I should have said that.
I just
Vector
know you
is
can't
the
get
training.
reimbursed in my
Yeah.
world unless you do an online training. So.
Vector has the online training portion for driving a vehicle.
Right, and so anyone who wants to drive something in the fleet has to do that.
Yes, and they'll have to sign a card, yes, correct.
Is wrestling too big for the van?
Well, middle school may not be,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think sometimes they have to use the van for like anybody who made it to state, because sometimes we don't have it.
And they have to take them back and forth. So we don't know all the answers, but we know that we're excited to have it as an option.
Right,
Oh,
that's
it's
great.
great.
We're excited to have it as an option. So we appreciate your support in us getting that, because I think that's a win for us.
Yeah, cause, I mean, I know golf real well, my kids are in golf, and all those parents would take off work early, show up sometimes at 2:30 to go to Mingo Bottom for a golf match on a Tuesday, and it'd be very nice, plus camaraderie amongst the athletes, being able to ride together to the events. Golf has always been a problem.
Well, yeah, because in the fall, you have so many sports. You've got volleyball, 2 volleyball teams, you've got football, and it's just hard to get buses. So this hopefully will be beneficial to all.
It's good
Yes.
for them, yeah.
Um,
Whoever needs it.
The other thing that I want to mention is we have still been working with West Virginia Medicine, working to try to get our athletic trainer. We believe that we will have one that they will not become available till June. But we're okay with that, because we don't want to go through football season again without one. And so I just wanted to give you.
I think we can.
Well, we can't, but we spent every day finding a nurse or someone to be over there, to where it was like, okay, the first conversation we had in this building every day was, who's going to be at football practice? And we were blessed that we had so many people willing to help us out and step up and get us through until we got someone hired as a limited sports trainer. But we'll be very excited to have someone on full-time and working with them. But I wanted to give you an update that that's coming. And the bus garage, the footers report. And so we're still moving on and hoping that in the next 2 weeks, they start doing some of the block. So we've had our meeting every 2 weeks, and things seem to be going on track and on time. So those are the things I just wanted to review with you today.
Thank you. Does anybody have any further questions? If not, we will move on to director reports, and we will start with our chief business official and treasurer, Ms. Lori Wallace.
It feels like it's been a long time since I've been here.
Last
I
year.
feel like I hadn't seen you for a while.
It was last year. It was last year.
Last year.
Thank you.
As she is providing you this, as she is providing you this information, Ms. Wells and I have met, and we have a plan moving forward of when she will be at board meetings and what particular items you will receive based on finance. When I attended your all's last training, they went over some expectations of what boards should ask for. And so I came back and we met, and we have a plan to provide you those things. We're very open with you on everything, but we're gonna start giving you a couple of summaries throughout the year to help you look at this a little closer.
So I'm going to go over this sheet first. It has all the numbers on the front of it in the chart. So what I did is I'm trying to do a little overview of our accounts quarterly, just to give you an idea of revenues that are coming in and expenditures going out. So one of the main things, if you look at the very first page, it's July to September. So it's broken down by a general fund, our excess levy, and Fund 61. So the main column, all of this is detailed, but the main column would be your year-to-date revenue. That shows you to the end of September, we had 5.9 million in revenue that came in. If you look all the way on the right, you'll see where it says prior year at the top. Underneath that says year-to-date revenue. That is last year's year-to-date revenue. So it says 5.937 million. So the difference is $55,501 that we had more at the end of September this year come in than last year. So that's kind of an easier way to look at it. I know it's a lot of numbers, it can be overwhelming, but I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of the summary of it. So then the next little section is expenditures. So if you look under those columns as well, year-to-date expenditures at the end of September was 3.3 million. And the year-to-date expenditures for last year during that time was 3.1. So we increased 147,000. Then if you turn to the second page, that's the second quarter. And that is October to December. So when you do the year-to-date revenues on this one, that is everything from July to the end of December. So it captures all of that. So that
Includes the numbers we just saw.
yes,
Okay.
it captures all of that.
So what she's showing you, this is the new chart you're gonna be getting. And we didn't give you the first one at the time next year we'll give you the first one. So we wanted you to see that this is the information we're gonna start providing, and then this is the one, that covers the next little.
And so the next one I'll give you will be January to March, and when you see the year-to-date, that's actually from July to the end of March. But it just kind of gives you an idea of the time frame. So the year-to-date revenue is 13.3 million that we've received this year. Compared to last year at this time, we received 19 million. So that shows you that we're down about 5.7 million, which is anticipated because we knew our levy was going to come in less. And then our expenditures, we have 8.7 million in expenditures, and last year was 8.5, so a difference of an increase of 232,000. So I'm more of a visual person, so the last page is the visual of the chart to show you more or less the revenue of the prior year versus revenue of this year, and expenditures of the prior year to expenditures of this year, just to kind of give you more of an idea.
And when we were looking at this, one of the things about expenditures, there's some things with expenditures we don't manage, but we had some PEI increases, cost of things have gone up. So as we started examining this, we feel like that we've done a pretty good job with our expenditures, with all the changes that we just have to live with, that come about. Do you agree?
Yes,
Yes.
I do. When you look at it, it's not as high as anticipated, but some of that's offset by the state aid formula too of it. Are there any questions?
When do you calculate in, and what document do you put the state aid formula on?
So you mean into this? So the state aid goes into Fund 11. So it comes in 4 times a month, so it's not really.
So it is calculated.
Yeah.
Yes.
And remind me what Fund 61 is.
That's our special revenue, so that would be like any state grants for special ed, any federal grants for special ed, Title I, all of those. Those are special, they're kind of restricted grants, you can only use them for certain things.
And then showing that we're still within your projected budget is,
So if you look like, let's look at the second page, that might help a little bit. So if you look at the current annual budget, shows that I'm anticipating 24.9 million to come in those three areas. So right now we've received 53%, which is half the year. So we're pretty well on track, hopefully, to receive. So then when you look at the current annual budget of expenditures, it's 24.7 million. So we're still within budget. We're not overspending.
Thank you.
So what do you all think? Good report?
Yeah.
Because it took us a while to figure out, not to overwhelm you, but to give you the information that you need to help lead and help us make decisions down the road, and felt like maybe this was the best way to go. Okay. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Wilson.
So then the second one is the audit for the schools. They came October, I think. And so, and I don't think I've been back since October, or September maybe. But I wanted to give you an update on this. So this is based on 24-25 finances. So they are auditing prior year. I asked them to come earlier than they normally come in March when they do the county audit, but I asked them to come earlier in case there's an issue that we need to resolve. We're not going a whole other year doing the same thing. So it was kind of beneficial. You'll see that all of the schools are pretty much in good standing. There were just a couple that we have to work through, and those are the athletics side. And currently I'm working on processes and procedures to put in place, kind of like a cheat sheet that they can look at quickly, because I know they get bombarded by a lot of things, but certain things like here's where to look on a certain document so that they kind of know how to piece it together.
As a reminder, the high school does have a financial secretary, and they also cover athletics.
They do the middle school too.
They do the middle school, that
Yes.
same athletic or
Yes.
financial
Yes.
secretary, what is the word, financial secretary?
Financial secretary.
Yes.
Just like-
Does both middle and high.
Yes.
So one of the things, when we did the calendar meeting just a few minutes ago, you know, I showed you the appendix that had the checklist of things that had to be done. What we're getting ready to do, or we're working on, is creating a similar checklist for athletics. So if a coach turns this in, when they turn that in, here's the checklist that they have to make sure all this stuff is done before they hand it in. And so we're trying to put a process in place, and then before the principal signs off on it, here are the things they have to verify. And before the finance person does it, this is the things they have to verify. They're missing simple things, dates being like out of order and things, but enough to where we want it to be more consistent.
And so one of the things that I also did was, after getting this report, did go ahead and pull some things for this year just to see kind of how we're doing this year. And so then I will review those with the administration and the financial secretary all together so that we can all go over the same thing.
So, I guess the one that would be most concerning would be making sure that money is turned in a timely manner. So, is part of that procedure have a watch of when
So-
concession stands and other things are happening?
Yes, so we kind of, from when we did our internal audit previously for 24-25, we knew there were some delays in different things. So at the beginning of this year, we put in some different processes. So this is based on last year. So we've already tried at the beginning of this year to implement those changes.
Do you believe it would be better if we were to have a report based on today?
We're working on it.
The answer is.
I guess because.
We hope, but we're not.
I guess because I've tried to implement some new forms and different things, and getting coaches and teachers to understand the new forms and why. That's kind of been a little bit of the process.
Are we getting money put in a quicker fashion? Yes. We had heard we were having some issues with finance, so I had Ms. Wells do an internal audit last year. So we had no surprises on this report because she found them last year. And so since then, she has been working very hard to try to get it to where we don't have an issue. She's very much involved in finances and athletics at both of those schools, to make sure that we don't, remember I said I don't like these, I don't like findings. So neither does Mrs. Wells. So we're hard after it, and then she will continue this year, is getting ready to do another internal audit, just because we wanna make sure that we train them on some things, we'll do an audit. We'll train them on some things, we'll do an audit. It's just
And there's such a larger volume through the middle school, high school, that when they pull their selections, it's based on a percentage. So if that percentage is, if it meets that certain percentage, then it becomes a finding, so.
But you do oversee a $24 million budget annually, and usually have no findings on that budget.
I
so-
try.
So I would say from the board's perspective, thank you for the attention that you're also placing on the schools and making sure that they follow procedures that will enable this list to get smaller.
I'm hoping so, yes.
That's our goal.
Are there any questions, comments?
Does this one have one with the boosters and the PTOs?
This
That's
does not.
another one?
That is to me,
Okay.
yeah.
She also audits all the boosters.
That's
Yeah,
what I-
yes.
So the other two things that I have, or one thing that I have, is just to go over later in the budget are the transfers. I thought I'd go ahead and go over those.
That would be perfect.
So all I have this time are transfers, there's no supplements. So for the first one is, it's adult basic ed transfer for supplies, software, and textbooks for that program. The second one is Title I for supplies, salaries, and subs, their fixed cost and software. Fund 11, general transfer for special ed aid salary. Then there is Fund 11, transfer for transportation supplies. Fund 61 is a state grant, it's the early literacy grant, transfer for professional services, travel, and software. Fund 61 is a state grant for state special ed, this is FY25, funding that we carried over, and it's transfer for fixed costs for salaries. Fund 61 is federal, it's Title IV, FY25 carryover, and that is for software for the middle school for PBIS. Fund 61, federal Title II, it's FY25 carryover for transfer of professional services and software, so 95% group and iReady. Fund 61 federal special ed, transfer for supplies. Fund 61 state, this is staff service development that comes through state aid, and the staff development council votes on how that's used, and so I am transferring it on how they voted, which was through the child nutrition training. And Fund 11 levy is safety and security, and this was for numbering the interior and exterior door per the brim inspection. So overall total $78,118 in transfers. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, up next, we have our chief instructional leader, Mr. Clevenger.
And I'm participating.
And Mrs. Todd. Tag teaming.
We're tag teaming.
See, you taught him how to make charts.
So we're the two that are probably, I don't know, Cassie's probably, we're both probably ADHD, you put us in a room together, it may take us a while, we get a good product, don't we? We have to go what now? We have ideas. We have lots of ideas. First thing I want to tell you is, we're about to get into the season of LSICs, where our schools come and they start presenting information. So prior to them coming this year, I asked Mr. Clevenger to work on a presentation about the county as a whole, and how we're doing mid-year data. Just like you heard Mrs. Wells give you some information about how we're doing financially, I asked them to give us an overall view. One of the things I want to point out in this is it's hard in a county our size to do a complete overall. You're not going to see a report on how the middle school's doing, because we have one middle school. So that's their report to do. Does that make sense? What you're going to see from us today, there will be some elementary data, because it comes from 3 different schools. And you're going to see data countywide, including all the schools. But you're not going to see specifically each of the schools, because that's the principal's data, and it's for them to share, and to share how their staff is working and gaining progress in their schools as well. So I just wanted to start out with, our progress leads to excellence. Our continuous improvement leads to top-tier student performance. I want to show you that 15 years ago, we were number 24 in the state of West Virginia as far as test scores. We now are number 7 in the state of West Virginia as far as test scores go. And I say test scores, but I want you to know that to get to that number, we are looking at skills students need to be successful. So we look at data pieces. It's not just about a test in one day. This actual number is, but some of the things you're seeing today, it shows you what we are providing students as a whole child to make them successful. 15 years ago, we were 24th. Today, we're number 7. Next, we're not hoping, we're going to show you how we're going in this direction. We've had a focused effort, has had a fundamental shift at our district. But you heard us say, we're doing lots of things great, but it's never done, and our work isn't finished. So we're here today to share with you some of the work that we plan to do.
So as a side note, I was in a superintendent's office within our region, very close by.
Okay.
And it was on the whiteboard what number they were. And how close we were to them. They were watching it, and it was on the whiteboard. I thought it was awesome.
Well, we're watching them too.
We're watching all of them too. We need you to know we're watching too. So one of the things that you see when we start doing these presentations, did you get the one too? You get a chart that kind of gives you some terms that we use. So I want to show you our consistency leads to sustained improvement. Some of the consistent things that you're going to see in our presentations from our principals, you're going to hear words again, like from our screeners, DIBBLES. Today we're going to go over some DIBBLES data. That's an elementary screener that we use in K-3 for literacy. And the ones with the stars on them on your piece of paper are the ones that Mr. Clevenger and I are going to spend some time on today. When the principals come, they're going to hit all of this. But in our presentation, I'm showing you which ones we're going to talk about. We're going to look at some iReady data, grades 2 through 4 in math, K through 4. We talked about attendance 1,000 times. We're going to look at chronic absenteeism. And then we're going to look at, if you look in the blue on this sheet, we're going to look at some math data, and we're going to look at not just how we're doing overall in math, but how we're doing countywide in numbers and operations, algebraic thinking, measurement data, and geometry. We're going to kind of dig down in some of this when we show you today. And then we're going to once again go over some DIBBLES terms that we've used. And we remember last year we showed you some DIBBLES. We're going to practice it again this year. And then always remember terms like beginning of the year, mid-year, end of the year. You'll see some of those things here as well as our tiers. So consistency in programs, creating an opportunity to evaluate and improve instruction. One of the things that's helped us in our system is we said, okay, we're all going to do the same thing. We're not going to have 5,000 different programs out there because you can't evaluate them all. We've chosen tools, programs to use in our schools which allow us now to evaluate the programs for effectiveness. If they don't work, we don't continue to use them. And if we do work and use them, we are able to improve them as well as the instruction we get from them. And we find this to be very, very a cornerstone in decisions that we've made that have helped us move the needle.
So next is our student attendance and how this leads to improved learning outcomes throughout our district. As you can see on our data here, 11.7% of our students currently are chronically absent. I feel like every time I present that number gets lower and lower and lower.
Did you see that 11.7?
Yeah, 11.7, which is, those of you who have been here, that is a milestone. But probably more important than that is the 64.6% of students who have shown 95% attendance. And as that shows, nearly 2/3 of the students in our district have an attendance rate of 95% or higher, which just means consistent environment for instruction in all of our classrooms. When the kids are there and the kids are present, the teachers can focus on what needs to be done. They're not focused on makeup work for students or things of that nature, because over 2/3 of our students are there 95% of the time, which basically equates to those students missing 1 day of school a month or less. So, and that number, there isn't one to compare there, but has gone from under 40% a few years ago to nearly 65% of our students, which is very, very impressive as well.
And the state goal for chronic absenteeism is
20%.
20%, and we're at 11.7. So we believe our students' attendance leads to improved learning outcomes. Our focused, or this next chart is really interesting, so you're going to have to stay with me. And Jacob, I'm describing it because I like charts, but he's going to go a little bit, so we're going to educate me here in just a few minutes, so stay with us. But our focused early literacy leads to reading comprehension. So we're going to show you why we can prove that and why we believe that.
So if you look at the chart, you have one in front of you, but you can see this one as well. This is all from K3, and it's from our DIBELS assessment. So if you take the sheet of paper I just gave you, flip it over to the back, the one with the pictures on it, flip it over to the back. You'll see on there it talks about letter naming fluency. You see that? Okay, you need to have that with you. So I'm going to explain the chart for you. Let's start with letter naming fluency. Jacob, tell them what letter naming fluency is.
So letter naming fluency is the basic building block that all of foundational reading will come from. It is as simple as it seems like it is. A student's ability to name letters, right?
There's an R, there's an A, there's an A.
It starts with the most common letters in the English language, so they're not throwing Z's and things that they don't see irregularly in print, but it will start with the most common 20 letters, and it is a timed 1 minute assessment, and basically gauging that student's recall of information. Just because they know it, if they don't know it fluently, that's an indicator of possibly of reading success only. And learning fluency only in grades A and 1.
K and 1. Okay, so I'm just going to take that first part of this chart. So we're going to look at this first part of the chart. 54% of our kids in the middle of the year, these are all from here down, our middle of the year data. So at this time in 2023, 54% of our kids were at mastery on letter naming fluency. 67 at mid-year this year. That's this, so this is 23, 24, 25, 26. So our mid-year data this year, 67% of our kids can and recognize their letters. Does that make sense how my chart reads? Okay, next one. Go to the next one.
Phonemic segmentation is a student's ability to segment parts of sounds within words. The example that I gave is the word cat. So the teacher would say the word cat, and the student would say, tell me the sounds that you hear. The student says cat, act, cat, right? And they would get 1 point for every sound that they are able to correctly articulate in that word. Again, that is a timed 1 minute assessment, again, which is a very early indicator of potential dyslexia or other reading difficulties the students may have down the road, and is one of the main foundational blocks of yours.
And what grade?
K and 1 again.
That's K and 1 again. Make sense? So you need that foundation before you learn to read. So if you look at our chart, middle of the year in 23, we're at 66%. Middle of the year this year, we're at 82% proficient in that area. Pretty impressive.
together
Together.
because they're one assessment that gives 2 scores. A lot of you who are parents or talk to parents who have children in the system may hear people complain often about nonsense words and why those are important. This is what that comes from. So the nonsense word assessment gives a score for correct letter sounds and words read correctly. So on your sheet, I believe you have the word pet. So it would be a word like that, and the student reads the word. They can either sound out the word and read it, or just decode the word and read it as is. So if the student says pet, they get 3 points for sounds. They get 1 point for word. If they say tep, they still get 3 points, and 1 point. It just slows down the process, right? So the students who are able to decode those words quickly, obviously, are going to read more words correctly and get more sounds because it's an efficient process.
So
And
again,
this would, and,
go ahead.
and for grade levels, that is everything kindergarten through 3rd grade. So at this point, at least for these 2 kindergarten through 3rd grade students, all do this assessment.
So this was this was K and 1.
KM1,
And this is
K through 3.
K through 3. So in this one, we started out in correct letter sound in 23 to 47% of our kids at proficiency. We are now at 65%. Mid-year comparing apples to apples. And on words read correctly, we started out at 50. We went to 59, 60. We are now at 68% proficient in words read correctly. The last one is oral reading fluency. That's your goal. Explain, they go.
So oral reading fluency, it's pretty straightforward. It is what it says it is. It's your fluency rate. There's a lot of research in the world, and we have done our own. We know what fluency rate they need to get to be able to comprehend. If you are not a fluent reader, comprehension is very difficult because they're so laborious in the task that they can't get to the point of comprehension because the pace of the fluency isn't there. You guys heard me talk. I obviously talk very fast when I talk, but it
That's
needs
why I'm helping you.
it needs to be
See where it
something
is.
around, the reading rate needs to be something close to a normal conversation speed when they read. So if you're listening to a child read and it sounds slower than that, then there may be a fluency issue within that. So these fluency passages start in 1st grade, so 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and the fluency passages obviously get harder as they progress through the grade levels. And oftentimes in 3rd grade, they'll start to see multi-syllable words and different things like that as that text difficulty increases.
So if you look at our oral reading fluency, we started out in 2023 at 42%, and this year we're at 52% proficient mid-year with oral reading fluency. From the same chart, I'm going to show you the questions that you normally ask. Well, we do a lot of projections on that. We've taken this down. We're sharing with you county stuff, but what we have is we have every school. We can go down to every kid, and we look at where do we need to put services, where do we need to put what schedules we need to look at, what changes. You're gonna hear, you may hear people grumbling, hey, they changed some things in my schedule. Well, maybe we have, because we're gonna make sure that we meet the needs of these children. So if you look at this, letter naming fluency. The first bar now, in the dark, you look up here in the blue, is at the end of the year last year when we finished. So in letter naming fluency, at the end of last year, we were at 78% proficient. Our projection this year is 80% proficient. And I don't know, do I say that's impressive? That's impressive. In the next section, we were at 78 at the end of last year. Our projection is 83. Is where we believe they'll end the year. Correct letter sounds, 67. We think we'll hit 72. Words read correctly, we think we'll hit 74. And oral reading fluency, we think we'll hit 62. And Jacob will explain this line.
So you'll, maybe I would ask the question of why the goal line is below where some of the targets are, right, even starting out. That goal is based off of oral reading fluency as your end goal, right? So until 70% of our students meet that goal does not change. several of these categories, we will obviously meet it, we've already met it there, we will meet it here next, and the final step will be meeting it within the oral reading fluency. A good way to think about it is, and we'll talk a little bit about reading comprehension, if we get this number to 70%, that just means that those kids have unlocked the ability to comprehend. It doesn't mean that they will comprehend. The text could be difficult, it could be something that is not of their interest, but that is solely unlocking the ability to comprehend. So then therefore, and you'll see some of our assessment things in a little bit where the goal is 60%, well that oral reading fluency has to be at 70 in order to unlock that threshold of 60% in those other categories. Yeah, and then again, just to point out the fact that nearly 2/3 of our students, which is the same percentage that was on the attendance slide, nearly 2/3 of our students are projected to achieve proficiency in oral reading fluency, which creates an opportunity for reading comprehension success in future grade levels.
So this is one of those things, I explained it today to, we had some of the directors be our kid, please had to listen to this today. So one of the things I said, is that when you're looking at this stuff, you say, okay, I'm building my blocks and I need the foundation to be strong. So these first two are really the bottom blocks of your foundation. And if you don't have those, you're never going to get to here. So if you look at someone's chart and that these are lower and for some reason they have high here, they're probably teaching through cycles. And then you pick up another issue that you could be having. So you want to have this block big, this on top of it to build to here to get to here. So it's kind of, this is critical in this process in literacy.
Right, and you'll see too some of the data early on. I sprayed out now, but it's still on your sheet where we were 42, 42, 45. When these building blocks start growing, these gains happen faster, right? So we were kind of just, if you could do it, you could do it, and you made it based on what we were doing, but that real focus on knowing what works at an early level and really focusing on thanks to the science of reading and different things. We're firm believers when you know better, you do better, and providing the professional development that we have with your support and things like that, those gains are going to happen quicker for more kids.
Any questions on that one?
I think another thing that we've done is we have all teachers at every grade level using the same tools, correct?
Yes. Right. And if we find things that don't work, we don't continue
We
doing
don't
it.
continue to use them. So one of the things we came to you a year ago and said, hey, listen, we're pretty sure iReady's not the tool we need in the middle school. We need scores and things. So we switched it to IXL. It's been much more beneficial from our research for that age group than what we've had in the past. We've added things, we haven't added, we've used, we'll start at a small group and do, like
Top score writing.
top score writing. Yeah, like we'll do a top score writing here, and it'll become very successful, and then we'll expand it. We try to do like a pilot before we just jump into it, so that it makes it strong. But even, we were talking today about, because we weren't sure how to word the chart, we do everything consistent. So probably what started this, not started it, continued it, was like, when I took this job, I did a research on what we used. I guess it's a whole new thing. At the end of the year, we bring the principals in, we just have a conversation with them. We ask them tons of questions about what they've done, and they show us all this data. And one of the things we found then was we were all using a different safety protocol in our schools. Well, that's dangerous. So the first thing we did was put in a safety protocol that everybody uses. Our police have it now, our firemen, we send it home to parents. We make sure we're consistent. So everything we look at how we're all going to do it, we're all going to do it in the same sense, because you can evaluate it better, and you become more proficient at it ourselves. So now, if I'm a kindergarten kid at Smithville, I've now had that program, the same safety protocol, for 4 years. When I get to the middle school, high school, the time I'm a senior, you keep it the same. So it doesn't panic them anymore when they hear it, because they've seen it. That's a simple example. But we've said our textbooks I think the reading series that the staff bought was a huge win for us at the time. It's what we needed at the time. I think they did a nice job with the math textbooks. I think that when we look at Lexia, we use Lexia, but we don't use Lexia in 7 other programs. The tech team knows what they're allowed to put on iPads. We don't just randomly do things. I guess it's purposeful education. Purposeful education that's consistent. Is that fair?
Yeah, And to wrap that up, kind of the science of learning, we hear about the science of reading, but it's really just the science of learning. And at the end of it, students don't need something fancy or they need something different. Some students just need the same thing more times. So when we provide consistency, it may click for me one time or 2 times, someone else 5 times, but it's not 5 different programs in 5 different ways because that just convolutes the picture, right? So the science and research on learning is some people just need it more times, and this consistency allows us to provide it more times in the same manner.
I found this interesting this week, last week. I did a training with new teachers and new subs and new employees. And it was good training, good people to work with. One of the things we do is we teach them APL. So all day long I model the teaching strategy we want our teachers to use. And it has wait time, it has on the clock, it has different key points to it. So we work on it all day through, like, if we're teaching them the safety protocol, I do it through APL. And so they've seen me model it. Well, then we send them out into the schools and we say, hey, see what instructional things you see. And it was so exciting to me when they came back and they were like, we saw this in the classroom and you said we would. You know, it was like they saw APL in action in the classrooms. They saw the programs that we said they would see in the classrooms. They saw, as substitutes coming into our building, they saw a consistent message on how to manage student behavior because we did champs across the board. So think how valuable that is just to our substitutes. Because now when they go into a school, they have one safety protocol, they have one means to manage students, it's just not all over the place. And I think that makes you a little bit stronger, because then you protect instructional time and don't lose a day of instruction when you have a substitute for it. Our improvement in reading fluency leads to overall reading success. So, go ahead and describe the first one.
So with our I-Ready assessment, it has different categories. It will be the categories of vocabulary, literature, and informational text. In the sense of the second through 4th graders that we're looking at, vocabulary is what vocabulary seems like it is. It will be words within a context in a sentence using morphology and different things like suffixes, prefixes that determine word meanings, and that sort of thing for vocabulary for our second through 4th graders.
So this is a historical look, once again, starting in 23 till today, all mid-year data. And so in 23, in our vocabulary, this time we were 36% proficient. Today we are 48. So you can see that there is a growth. Literature.
So I want to explain literature and informational
Yeah.
text together, just so when she explains the data, it makes a little bit more sense, because you'll see discrepancies. Literature is literary text, things of stories, fiction of that nature. Informational text is, you could think, much more scientific and concrete in nature. You'll see discrepancies in that data because informational text often includes multi-syllabic words based on the content that it is covering. And oftentimes those are words that are harder to decode or decipher for students. So you'll see a lower percentage of proficiency in informational text because of the issues we've tried to clean up with decoding and letter sounds and things of that nature early on.
So in literature, you can see we were 38%, we went to 41, 40, and right now we're at 52. And in informational text, we were at 32, 34, 34, and now we're at 41. All of which shows the upward growth and quite a bit of growth in all of those categories. So then our overall look at I-Ready for grades 2 through 4, we started at 37% proficient. We are now at 54% proficient. Mid-year, this is all mid-year data.
I think you're reading the mid-year 26 on those.
The mid-year 26 were 54%.
This is 54% mid-year. That's this year.
This one. The one with the white letters.
So we started at 37, and this year we're at 54. Is that what I said? Correct me if I was
Mid-year
wrong.
26, right?
That's now. That's school year 26.
Our school year ends, so these are based on the
Oh, okay.
ending of the year.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they're based on the
Mid-academic year.
Yeah.
Academic year.
Academic.
We're an academic year
You're
26.
showing us mid-year because that's what
We have
the
currently.
principals will be sharing with us when they come through.
They won't
as a-
have end of year information. they'll have some
on projections.
Well, we only see end of year in a chart, we never see a presentation on it, our presentations are always mid-year, so that's why you're using mid-year.
Absolutely. And we showed you mid-year, it wouldn't be clean data if we showed you 2023 end of the year, and the only thing we have now is mid-year.
Great,
So we
understand.
tried to keep it consistent, but then we knew Jason was gonna ask. Well, how did you do last year? So we had these last two bars just for him. You know, just kidding, kind of.
I like it, I like it.
Okay, so Jason's two bars. At the end of the year, last year, we were in vocabulary at 51. This year, we're projecting that we're gonna be about 50.
And so that would account for when they come in to talk to us and they're gonna talk about their stretch growth that they're projecting,
Yes.
that will be.
Those projections will be the same kind of projections we make. And obviously, they'll look different for different schools based on their data, but the formula is the same, the way we project and the way they project, because I project full time.
Right, we listen very well to stretch growth, I think we put it in the superintendent's report.
My evaluation. In literature, we were at 49, we're projecting 57, and in informational text 42, we're projecting 51. Our overall, our goal, as you can see, is at 60, and we believe this year, at the end of the year on our iReady 2 through 4, we will actually meet that 60% goal and be at about 62.
Whatever you're doing is working great. If you just look at the 2 years ago bar, the blue, and move it up to the gray, those are big jumps.
And
Our staff's doing a fabulous job, they're committed to the work.
yeah, and like you said, you can look at that chart and tell when it happened, right? Like,
Mhm.
when we put our, like there and put your foot down and said, we're all going to agree on the same principles and do the things that we know are right for kids, you can see a drastic shift that happened quickly. Like that growth went from, like I said, 2 to 3 to 14%, right? Like, and that will start to trickle through, and you'll see in some different charts how those growth rates will be impacted
Some of
later
them
on.
double.
Yeah.
10 to 15% higher than 2 years ago.
Right.
So by all this, we'll be higher than 7 this coming year.
Well, I thought that last year, Denny, and I wasn't, because
It's
other
coming.
people got better too.
It's coming.
So, you know,
So it's
like I
just
said, people say, well, they can change.
Remember, we're on some people's whiteboards and they're
Yeah.
monitoring us.
Everyone has a whiteboard.
Everyone has a whiteboard, you do too, yes.
But again, on this, like, again, making the point that nearly 2/3 of our students are projected to achieve proficiency in overall reading, creating an increased reading success overall for our students.
And I guess that's the point I want to make here. I know people, and I said this earlier, oh, it's all about a test. No, this is about our kids and the fact that we can say right now in their history in reading that 62% of them at the end of this year will be proficient in being able to comprehend what they read to their level. That's important to us. So what's really, I mean, I know there's an end of the year test and all that, and it is a very important end of the year test because we use that data to make sure that we are able to move this needle. But this data is what changes things for us. Because we see it along the way and we know where we need to go. Because I told you, I mean, we have stacks of charts we've been working on to get to this. And we're like, okay, and then we have a list of here's where we're going first to work, and these are the next places we have some issues, and here's some tools we're gonna give them because we saw it work here. We're gonna make sure that we just gotta plan it. And you gotta look at what you've got and be willing to, and our staff has been willing to go, okay, we'll do that. So, that's where we are. Our focused early numeracy, now this is math. Instruction leads to math readiness. The thing about math is, if I don't understand the thought of 1 plus something equals 3, that's basic algebraic thought. If I don't have that basic thought, when I take algebra one day, I'm going to struggle. So math really is foundational. Reading is foundational. Math is foundational. And so what we have to make sure, and I want you to know, I'm going to say this out loud. We've done phenomenal in math. We have. Can I say that? We're not, okay. We've done great, phenomenal to get even higher, but we've had a good focus on math, and we've changed things in math. For example, numbers and operations. Go ahead.
It's just your basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, division.
Numbers and operations. How to add, subtract, multiply, divide. at each of the different levels. And you get it, our charts. In
Yes,
twenty-three,
we get it.
you get it, and we were at 38%, we're now 51%. The next one, algebraic thinking, it's different from first grade to second grade, it builds, but we were at 39%, we're now 57%. Measurements and data, we were at 35%, we're now 49%. Geometry is the one that I told him that I think this is the, is the hardest one for kids to get. Because it's so spatial and they don't all see it the same. We've gone from the 30s to where now we're up to 43, which I think that's a good improvement. And then overall, in math, we have gone from 32 mid-year in 23 to 45 mid-year this year.
Also on these since math is a little bit different than literacy mid-year wise because the sequencing of the instruction. So you're gonna see much lower data mid-year always in math because they haven't got the second half of the year yet. Where literacy is, once you can read it, kind of flows. Math may have not been taught something yet.
You may have, like, today I was meeting with one of the principals, she's like, oh, we're about to hit fraction time. So if any of this was on fraction when they were tested, they weren't ready for it yet. But we see they're getting the basic skills when they get to fractions, they're gonna pop up quicker. Does that make sense? So in this one, numbers and operations, last year at the end of the year, we were at 64, we're anticipating 72. Algebraic thinking, last year we were at 59, this year we're thinking about 77. Measurements and data, 56, we think 66. Geometry, we're gonna be, we believe in the year we were around 66. On the iReady in math, K-4, and overall, we believe we'll be up 10 at the end of the year on this iReady data. And, go ahead, Jay.
Again, 2/3 or more of our students are projected to achieve proficiency in all numeracy areas, which is, as Hawk said earlier, increases math readiness and future grade levels, which is our overall goal. And you'll notice this is higher too because we surpassed the 60% threshold last year for math at elementary levels.
So we bumped our goal up.
And as you know, like fourth graders were first in the state last year, so we're going to see some of that sort of trickling into the middle school because we're starting to see that work pay off when those kids go on. So we have bumped our numeracy goal up to 70%, which if we get to where we can at the end of this year, maybe bump it up again next year because that bar keeps climbing.
Question, in iReady or any of these dibbles, who determines what is proficient? Is it the state?
It's a national, these are all nationally normed assessments, so there are millions of students across the nation that take these assessments, and they are normed that way. So the Third Grade Success Act will give us scores for, cut scores for students who need interventions or things like that, but as far as meeting benchmarks, and oftentimes we will raise those ourselves a little bit because we feel sometimes in areas that are low. But as far as the assessment overall, those are nationally normed and there are millions of students a year across the nation, across the world that take those assessments.
I'll say to Jacob, that seems a little high for that benchmark. And he'll say, well, I thought it wasn't really, we were almost there, so sometimes he raises my benchmark. we need to climb a little higher. This is
Another goal.
It's a Jacob goal, that will be. Higher.
All right, and then so this is kind of what you, Dr. Action, I believe you had mentioned earlier, you're used to seeing things based on like GSA scores or things at the end of the year. So this is kind of where we have been GSA-wise, which for us are grades 3 through 8 and grade 11 for the SAT. For both ELA and math, you can see, historically speaking, we were at 43, 44, so kind of a 1% growth, and that's kind of what it looked like here, or was flatlined. And then we've had a 3% growth and a 3% growth in ELA. Once that work has started to kind of kick in a little bit, those growth rates are going to continue to expand because more and more students, we've only had so many students in third grade, right? And then we'll have them in fourth grade, and then fifth, and then sixth, and as they go on, those growth rates will expand both in ELA and math. You can see the same kind of thing over here. We've always hovered somewhere around the 50-ish% mark in both. So as those rates progress, we'll continue to see, I would project a 3 to 5% growth per year, which will get us close to that 60%, which again is based off of our strategic plan goal, which is 60% proficiency in both ELA and math. And then obviously those foundational skills are creating larger systematic growth after we have focused on the skills at the core that are going to move the needle for us.
it's our puzzle. The pieces that lead us forward are what we have to look at. And one of the things that we look at is focus.
And for us, focus looks like protecting instructional time through focused practices and programs. As Mrs. Hawk said earlier, knowing what our people are doing and making sure that the things that we know will work are being implemented in all the classrooms, regardless of the school. Another thing we have to do is making sure that we have alignment.
Maintaining high standards and expectations through all schools and grade levels. That our expectation is for everyone, and that we make sure that, that we align whatever we put in place to where everyone has the opportunity to grow with it. Consistency.
Consistency is ensuring strong teaching practices and programs at all grade levels by providing targeted professional development. A lot of the growth that you've been able to see is because the professional development we have provided is very specific. We're not trying to train in 20 different programs, we're training in 3 different programs for 3 very specific purposes. So making sure that all of that is aligned and consistent.
So one of the things that we found today that we thought, okay, this is it. Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. And we believe that's the way we've been able to make the change, is staying focused on these 3 things, and with the staff and the people that we have to work with. We feel like that we have come together, we are showing progress, and we're seeing the success. But the one chart that I kept saying to Jacob, I like this chart, but it's the part that I couldn't get past, and that is, but that doesn't mean where we are and where we want to be. We're not at an end. We have to understand that we are continually growing, and to continually grow, you have to continue to work in the pattern to show the improvement. And so it's not, what was that, slide 3, it was like it's.
We're not finished. We're continually refining things to make sure that we get
We're
growing.
refining them, it's not finished. And so we just wanted to start out with a presentation to you so that when they come to you and they're all saying, because you may leave here and say, gosh, other than the numbers, they all sounded the same. That's a win for us, right? That's a win, because we wanted to have, if I transfer from Creed to Harrisville, or from Harrisville to Creed, or Creed to Smithville, I want it to be similar, we want it to be similar. We want them to have the similar opportunities, and the similar curriculum. So do you have any questions for us?
Well,
Very impressive.
we can use this as a benchmark, so when the individual schools come in and share their results, we're gonna know how those
And-
contribute to
And the presentations you will see will be very similar, so you will see on their presentations the averages as well. So they will show where they are. Obviously, the middle school, high school doesn't have an average to compare to because they are themselves, right? But at least for the elementary presentations, they will have on there where the county average is, where their school is, and where the goal is. So you'll be able to see across the board what that looks like.
And at the end of all of those school presentations, will you be able to share with us, it'll be a personnel matter, so possibly an executive session, what your thoughts are on some focused interventions to help those whose scores aren't as high as you want them to be? Is that a practical, I mean, I'm sure you're thinking that way, are we allowed to know any of that?
So some of the processes that we use already, because you have an option as a superintendent to do mid-year evaluations with principals, and they have their goals set. So one of the things we did today and tomorrow and the next day is we bring principals in and we set them down and we review all their data with them. And we tell them where they are. And we tell them, here are some things that we find, here are some areas of, before we start building their presentations with them, here are some areas of focus. And here are some suggestions of instruction that needs to be done. And then here are the dates we're gonna be in your school to make sure that it's done. And so we have already started the process of and we had some calls today and say, here's the schedule that meets your need, that meets the needs better. We've made these adjustments and it'll start tomorrow.
I think it also shows the importance of the walkthroughs, because to
absolutely.
be able to go in at the end of the year or whenever you have the meetings and say, I know what's happening in the classrooms, and to be able to answer the questions I feel like you're asking.
And part of that too is like with walkthroughs, trying to do a better job with the principles of knowing when you walk in, just because it looks good doesn't mean it is good, right? Like I know as a teacher, I know a lot of things that looking back seemed really good at the time, but looking back, weren't probably effective use of my time. So making sure that the time they have is very valuable and that it's being used to the best of their ability and to protect the time for the kids and the teachers.
I appreciate the time that you're focusing on academics. I believe we can do no harm to students in trying to raise the academic level.
And anytime you focus on instruction and instructional time and utilizing the time that you have, it changes things, and you have to stay focused.
On a real side note, is this done in PowerPoint?
Canva.
We did it in
In
Canva.
Canva? Okay. I didn't really think it was PowerPoint. I didn't know that you could do that little thing where you can highlight a
Yeah.
couple of
Wasn't that
the
good?
columns there. But also, the color scheme is very nice. I'm not sure what that color scheme is called, but I like the hues that
So
were
go to our very
presented.
first one. In our very first slide that we
They
showed,
weren't pastels and they weren't bright.
we went to this very
colors.
first
They
slide
were
and then we
pleasing.
asked it to pull the colors out of this first slide.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
then
cool.
we carried it all the way through. And then the neat thing is, if we decided to switch one of the columns, there's this little thing that says, switch all of that in this, the PowerPoint, switch them all at once.
Well, they are very pleasing to the eye colors, and yes, I would say they probably represent our school colors as well, but I did appreciate the color choice.
Well, thank you. The pinky had this
Small
morning, I'm like,
details.
yeah.
Small details matter.
We appreciate you guys listening
Lori's
to
like,
us.
I'm really glad I didn't have to print that like that tonight.
We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us this evening. We kind of wanted to set the stage for when the principals come, because you will hear some consistencies through it. You know, here's our attendance. I spoke to a principal today that was just, and they all are, they're elated with their attendance. They do know we're about to go through a flu season and it may alter it some, but we've had a great year as far as attendance goes. Dr.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. And that impacts everything. Like you saw, like a lot of those slides said 2/3 of this, 2/3 of this, 2/3 of this. Well, 2/3 of the kids are here 95% of the time, right? So the kids that are here that amount of time are getting the instruction that they need, and that's only going to get better.
All right, well, thank you so much. Next, we'll move to the consent agenda.
Under the consent agenda, one of the items on here is an updated board meeting schedule to move the Monday, January 26th meeting to January 21st. Then 2, 3, and 4 are more of the typical volunteer drivers, volunteer commitments in lieu of transportation. There's a memorandum of understanding with the FRN to provide some services, support, and referrals for our families, and to approve Andrea Perrine, a student at West Virginia University Parkersburg, in a child development program to do some observation hours at Creek Collins, and a few high school attendance waivers. I ask that you approve those consent items as listed.
We have a motion for approval of the consent items as stipulated on the record. Mr. Hall makes the motion. Mr. Nelson will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have resignations.
I ask you to approve the resignation of Bailey Boley, a cook at the middle school, high school, and the resignation of Belinda McCroskey, who was in a cook position at the middle school, high school, filling a leave of absence.
We have a motion to approve the resignations as stipulated on the record. Mr. Reed makes the motion. Mrs. King will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have employments and rescissions.
The first one under employment transfers and rescissions is an FMLA. We ask that you approve retroactive. B and C are both to rescind. One is to rescind an offer of a social studies teacher, and one is an athletic clock operator just at the high school. And then letter E, I want you all to see, is a high school counselor. We were excited. Jackie McBrayer will sleep good tonight. Also, Melanie Henderson is transferring into an English position at the middle school. Chaselyn Jones, there's a few unique things on this agenda, will be hired, if approved, as a clinical teacher of record at Ritchie County Middle School. Samantha Dabbs as a substitute cook. Sean Yoakum as a full-time custodian. Carlos Molina is a bus transfer. Reagan Cunningham is coming off the sub list as an ECAP pre-K special ed aide at Smithville. And Nathan Shipe retroactive as an athletic clock operator for the basketball seasons. And then M, Chaselyn Jones as the head softball coach at Ritchie County Middle School. And in through our authorized certified non-paid coaches for the track and baseball teams, all who have been in those positions before. I ask that you approve that long list of things under personnel.
Do we have a motion to approve as the superintendent as recommended? Mr. Nelson makes the motion and Mr. Howell will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next we have,
Got a question, or a comment on, the guidance counselor is awesome. You wouldn't wanna overwhelm her, but it'd be cool if maybe put something out about that position is filled, how.
I'm sure
When
it'll
she's
be
ready.
a buzz at the high school soon.
Yeah, so parents knew.
That she said.
Yeah.
Does that person, they're effective tomorrow, you're coming that soon?
No,
That's what I figured.
but they are fully certified,
Okay,
so that's exciting.
all right.
Good deal.
Next, I asked that you employ, this was separate because we had to rescind the one to hire this one, Emily Burnside as the social studies teacher at Ritchie County Middle School, pending meeting all requirements.
Do we have a motion for approval? Mr. Reed makes the motion, Mrs. King will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
On number 4, you have a list that is provided to you, and I ask that you approve the service personnel job classification review. We are required to do this in January of every year. Teresa has that list, and Kelly has made sure that it is accurate, and it is as of January of this year. I ask that you approve that list as it was provided to you.
We have a motion for approval of the service job classification review for 25-26. Mr. Nelson makes the motion, Mr. Hall will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have payment of bills in the amount of $710,834.26. Do we have a motion for approval? Mrs. King will make the motion and Mr. Reed will second. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And next, financial request.
Under financial request, Mrs. Wells went over the transfers and gave you good details on those. The next one is an updated extracurricular salary chart. We bring that to you at the beginning of the year. I'm going to add it to my list to also bring it to you in January. We've added a few things to that chart this year, and I want to make sure that we keep it updated, like the athletic clock operators, as well as the limited sports trainer, and then also some after school for the ACT camp at the high school, so that that list, if it is pulled, that we have it correct for the auditors. So you'll start seeing that twice a year. I would like to approve JSM Lawn Care for mowing and trimming. It's the company that is currently doing our lawn mowing. They have won the bid and then also the option for a 2-year renewal. And then Stray Dog of Ohio gave us the best bid for the weight room rework, as well as the flooring in there. And that is pending they get all the proper paperwork to us. And then approve the IRS regulation mileage change to 0.725 per mile effective January 1. I ask that you approve. It looks like 7, but it is misnumbered. There are only 6 items.
Do we have a motion to approve the 6 items for?
Actually, there's 5, because one's marked up. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5.
The 5 items for the financial requests. Mr. Reed makes the motion. Mix it up, Mr. Hall will make the second. Any further questions about the financial requests? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. I mean, aye.
Aye.
I said aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Don't know how that came out. Do we have requests for agenda items for the next board meeting? Do we have any board member committee reports? Our next regular meeting will be held based on the decision that we made tonight on January 21st